Good afternoon and welcome to the channel. In today's video I am going to show you guys how to disassemble a headlight. This is on my 2015 Challenger. We are going to be opening the headlight up is what I'm going to be showing you guys how to do that. I'm going to remind you in the beginning of this video my headlights have already been opened up, so this should be easier than a headlight that has not been opened up before. So it'll be a little bit easier for me. Basically, you're going to use the same technique, the same style to open it up if it's factory sealed and it hasn't been opened up before. You're going to use the same technique, same style to go ahead and get that headlight opened up. It's just going to take some heat and a little bit more time, but be patient. If you're getting frustrated, take a breath, walk away, take a break, whatever you need to do. You do not want to break the lens or the housing, so that is the important part. I don't really think it's going to be extremely hard. It's just something that's going to be kind of time consuming. You got to take your time with. I know I have a subscriber that is on the channel, Lucky Luciano, and this is a video that he's requested and asked for, and luckily for him I told him that I'm getting ready to open up my headlight. This video is to help you out, buddy. Also anyone else looking to do this, so hopefully this video will be helpful for you guys. But I have my whole headlight housing here. I do have wires hanging out the bottom. Yours will not have these. This is for demon eyes and halos that are already installed. I have a demon eye that is out in this. That's why we're opening it up. So basically you're going to get to see the demon eye, where it's placed in there, how to change a demon eye. You'll probably see the halos. We'll kind of go through all that. I'm not going to try to make this video super long, so some of the stuff is going to be sped up, like me heating it. One thing that I will say, when you're heating this up, you want to have your lens facing away from you. You're going to want to have a good heat gun. This is a Porter cable. And you're going to want to heat from the back, because if you're heating from the front facing this lens, you could distort this lens. You could melt it. You can melt this black plastic on the back, but at least you're not going to see it. So you're going to be heating from the back side here, warming that up. You're going to just kind of be working in sections, going around to open that up. So that is a tip. Have the headlight facing away from you, just like this, and work from the back side. I'll put a link to this heat gun that I have in my video description. I will try to find a link. This is just a plastic pry tool for windshields. I'll try to find some on Amazon or something, put a link in there as well if it's something that you need. But I like it because it is plastic, it is flexible. I don't think you're going to do any damage with it. So this is the tool that I'll be using to kind of pry the lens and that stuff. So I'm going to go ahead, get it set up, have it setting away from me like I explained to you guys, and start heating and try to open it up. I'll show you a little bit, just regular time, and then I'm going to speed the rest of it up because you're not going to want to watch me heating and prying, and then we'll get into the rest of it. I'll show you what we're going to use to seal the headlight up, and clamps, and what you want to do to get that headlight sealed back up, because you do not want moisture getting back into your headlight. So let's go ahead and get set up and see what we need to do and see how this thing is to open up. Okay, so kind of a different angle. We are off to the side. The headlight, as you can see, the lens is facing away from me. Another thing I forgot to mention is you're going to want some microfibers or something soft. So if you're standing this light up on end, whatever you have it setting on your workbench, whatever, you're not going to be scratching it. So that's why I have the microfibers. And then basically you're not going to want to go to your, try to keep that shut off right now while I'm talking. You're not going to want to go to your highest heat setting. Well, I'm not at first. I haven't done this before, so I'm going to do like a decent temp. It's kind of hard to say exactly how hot it is, but I'm not super hot, and I'm just going to start working sections. And there is these little clips here that do pry up that you have to get off as well. So I'm just going to do a section, get it heated up, do some prying, and we'll see how it goes. So I've got it, and it's definitely very warm, blowing on my hand here, so I know that's not real good for temp. And it does get hot, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of work this whole top section. I'm going to work the heat and keep touching with my hand. I'm going to work it kind of fast because I don't want to concentrate the heat all into just one area. I just basically want to concentrate it on this ridge. And it's already getting very hot. I'm just going to take my tool and gently pry with it. So it is kind of hard to see, but it is starting to pry out. And then if I need more heat, because it is cooling down, I'll just come back in and add more heat to it. And basically that's going to be the process that you're going to have to use, is to just keep heating. You don't want to pry too hard, you don't want to break anything, so it's just kind of a finesse touch. You don't want to heat too much, you don't want to melt anything. So just work your heat evenly and pry evenly. You will feel it start coming apart. Feel it with your hand. That's going to be your best gauge if it's too hot or not hot enough. I'm actually just running my tool down it and it's freeing up. Like I said, you have these little clips that you kind of got to hold up. But I can tell that that is loosened up. So when you get to this point, basically what it's looking like is my whole top edge is loosened up. You're not going to want to just pry it open. You want to work around the whole thing, make sure everything's loosened up and it's prying away. Because if you get, you know, halfway down and you go to pry it, this bottom's still stuck, you're going to crack this lens, break it, put stress marks in it, and you don't want to do that. We'll basically turn it over, and this was the edge on this side right over here that I was just working on. Now I'm just going to keep working around. I said I'll speed some of this up, but I'm just going to keep working around it. I'm going to shut the camera off here until I get this lens opened up. That's basically what you're going to have to do. I just don't want tons of this time of me just prying on this, but I'll bring you back when we're starting to peel the lens off. Okay, so as I said, I'll bring you in when we start getting this lens off. I worked around it. As you can see, nothing wrong with the lens at all. It is all cleaned up. You're fine. Hold on. And now the headlight is opened up. Here's the headlight. Biggest thing you need to do once you get it opened up is clean all the glue and everything up for when you go back together. The lens and the housing, they have to be extremely clean. Let me start disassembling this to get to the Demon Eye, and I'll show you guys that. Okay, so I've been into this headlight, so when I take it apart, there's going to be something a little bit different. I will show how to take it apart. You're going to need a 7mm socket, and you have a bolt here, here, down on the bottom, both on the bottom, and then also one on the side over here, as you can see. So you just need to take those out. Mine were just hand tight, so I could literally just put the socket in there like so. Move this headlight around, and then I could just twist them out by hand. You are going into a plastic housing, so there is no need for these to be extremely tight. So when you're putting it back together, you don't need to go crazy tight. If you're wanting to take the halos out to replace the boards and you're needing to remove this acrylic ring, those are a little Torx there. I'm not needing to remove them. I'm not real for sure what size they are because that's something I don't need to do, but they are very tiny. But this is something once you get in here, well, actually, I'll cut back to this and I'll find out what size they are and I will tell you and show you. But we're just going to take okay, so now that I got those out, one thing that you do want to note, taking this apart, putting it together, is right next to the bolt on the sides, here and then down at the bottom, there's little guide dowel pins. So you don't want to just force that in. And then if you're going to be taking these halos off, you're going to need a Torx T10. That will take your acrylic halo rings off. Like I said, I'm not needing to do that. This is going to look a bit different because I've already been in here once. But basically you're going to grab all of this and it's going to pull out. On the back side, you have these black wires. These are added in for my halos, but you're going to have a group of black wires coming to the circuit board. On each side, you just got to push that two little clips in, and then that will unplug. We will pull the wires out of here that are for my halo, or halos. So once you have this removed, this is the back side, this is what it looks like. Right here is where that plug-in goes. Set this to the side somewhere safe. And now you are inside the headlight housing. This is your projector on the side here, as you'll know. So I said mine's gonna look different because you're gonna actually have this ring that is around your halo covering it. So it will look something kind of like that. I already had that out. I've taken the projector out. I wanted to do this to make sure so I'm not misleading, so you guys know what's going on. So if you want to remove your projector housing, you're gonna need, I'm just using a screwdriver. It's a T20. There is 3 screws on this. Same thing, they're going into plastic, don't need to be extremely tight. But let me remove these 3 screws. One thing to note as well is when this ring is around your projector, you can get that screwdriver in there to remove those. Once you have those removed, then basically your whole projector housing will come out. If you're wanting to disassemble it, there is 4 screws on the back of this reflective housing, and then I have just used a screwdriver, and it is a Torx T15. So T15 and the T20 is what you'll need for your projector housing, removing it and doing that stuff. The Demon Eye is just placed right into the top of the projector housing. It's double-sided taped in and it's just stuck right there. Once you remove this out, if you want to remove this ring, this is the best time to do it because you have these clips right here. You just gotta push them on each side, basically pressing them together to remove them. Putting it back together, I can show you that. because I'm at the point now I need to put it back together. But then basically it just clips on. So that's what I was saying. It will look different because it will have this black ring on it. But that is basically how you get to your projector. That's how you open the headlights up, unplug stuff to get in there. But this is how you're going to get in there and work at it. One thing I will say, I can't stress it enough, it is going to take a lot of heat. When I say a lot of heat, I don't mean a lot of heat focused in one area. I mean just heating quite a bit, working around the seal. You also need to work around this air intake tube. Some of them are blocked off because it is sealed around all of that. It's just going to take a lot of time, a lot of patience, and even heating across the area that you're working with. If you do that, I feel extremely confident that you will be able to get into your headlight housings. Other than that, it's nothing too crazy or too hard. I will show gluing this, clamping this, and all of that. Really, from this point forward, that's where the demon eye is. It's mounted up on top of that housing there with some double-sided tape. I did not install my halos, but my halos were installed by Mod Effects. Thank you, Mod Effects. You guys do amazing work. But those are installed behind my acrylic rings. If this is something you're not wanting to do, well, this is something you're wanting to do, but you're not wanting to tackle yourself, leave in the comments below. I will definitely get you guys hooked up with Jose over at Mod Effects or Randall, both amazing people. They'll take great care of you, and they're more than willing to do this. Like I've said before, I've shipped my headlights out to them. They take great care of everyone. They love all their customers, just great group of people there. But if you want to tackle this, hopefully this video is helpful, and this will help you tackling this job of opening this up. So I'm going to get some things taken care of. Really don't need to film it. I'm going to glue the lenses and everything back on. I'll speed up, but I'll show putting everything back in. It's just reverse of disassembly, but I will show it, but I'll just have it sped up. And you just want to make sure all your areas that you're going to see lenses, everything is clean. So definitely just clean everything up, and then I'll show how to glue it and clamp it. Now we'll just go back into installing these screws to hold this halo housing in. I'm not going to use a ratchet on it like I was mentioning before because they weren't extremely tight. And I'm basically just going to put them in by hand, go around and check. And basically all I'm doing here is taking a really nice microfiber towel. Anywhere that I see that I got fingerprints or anything, I'm just kind of wiping everything down because you do not want to see that once you have it all glued back together. So make sure you have your housing as clean as possible and as clean as you're going to be happy with, because once you glue it back together, if you see a fingerprint or something in there, you're not going to be able to get it out. So really, that's all there is to inside of these headlight housings. They are very simple inside. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take my lens and I'm going to clean the inside just because I don't want to have any fingerprints in there. And once I have that clean, and then we will be gluing this together. And if you're adding halos or anything, you always want to drill your hole in the bottom of the light. That's something I haven't showed or mentioned because I didn't have to do that. As you can see, the hole is there. You just really fill that hole up with the silicone that you're using to glue this back together. That's what you're going to want to do. So you want your hole in the bottom, so if there's ever any water, it has a way to get out, but you do not want any water. But the best bet is to put the hole in the bottom. So when going back together with the headlights and gluing them together, the best thing to use is this GE 100% silicone. It's black. It has a 30-minute working time. It says 8 hours full cure. I let it sit for 24 when I clamp it. I'll show you how much I'm putting in the lip of the headlight housing, what we're doing, but this is what you're looking for right here when you're gluing your headlights back together, is this GE 100% silicone. in the black color. It really doesn't matter what color. The black color is the best because your headlight housing is black, so I would stick with the black, but that is what you're going to want and that's what you're going to be using. Another thing that I'm going to do, and I will just kind of speed through it, is I'm going to heat from the back side. So I am going to turn my headlight housing away from me, like we did pulling the lens off, and I'm going to heat up this lip because it does kind of spread when you're prying the lens out. So I'm going to heat it up, pinch it back together by hand, make it a little bit tighter, and I'll just speed all that up. Okay, so as you can see, you just want this lip around here to be even all the way around. You don't want any big gaps in it. It doesn't take a lot of heat, just a little bit of heat, and then just pinch it back together. It goes right back into the shape that it needs to. There's a few spots right up top here that I see that I want to get a little bit more, and then really that's all there is to this. So that looks good to me. That's perfect for myself. So the next step that I will do is these wires that are coming in the bottom, I'm going to add a lot of silicone in here, sealing them up. Once I have the silicone in here, I'm going to run a bead of silicone. Basically, you want this, I say, about 3/4 full around this channel gap, and then don't forget inside of basically your air intake to get your silicone in there as well, but just go around all of it. Put the silicone in, and then once I have the lens on and I have it clamped, I'll show you the clamps we'll need. Then I will silicone the bottom of where these wires are coming out for my demon eyes and my halos. Something else that's kind of nice when you're working with silicone is just get a black just glove. It could be a latex glove, doesn't even have to be black, but just get a glove. That silicone is a little bit hard to get off of your skin, so having a glove is kind of nice. Then you can smear it around if you need to, and you don't have to worry about it just kind of getting stuck in your skin and being kind of hard to clean up. Like I said, I'm coming in here where the wires are coming through. I just want to make sure that I have it sealed on the inside. I will do the outside as well. I just like to do this because once we get the lens on, you cannot get into there anymore. This is where that glove comes in handy because you can smear it around in there wherever you need it, and you don't have to worry about it getting on your skin. I know this angle is kind of hard for you guys to see. I'll bring the camera in closer once I get the silicone around all this so you can see roughly how much I have in here. When you're adding the silicone in here, you want to be careful not to get it on any of the lens for your turn signal, anywhere in there. If you do, you're going to want to make sure you get it cleaned up. That way you don't see it when you got the lens on and it's not covering up your turn signal or anything like that. If you're doing more than one, make sure you wipe the silicone off the tip. Get your cap back on there so it does not dry out. Then, as I was saying, Here is the silicone. You can see how it is laid in all the way around. You can see how full it is. It's not all the way up to the edge, but we definitely have a nice bead in there. You do want it to squeeze out. You want it to cover everything so everything is sealed up. You can see the wires in there that I've siliconed, and then also the silicone I've laid around here. So we're going to be back at that angle again for a little bit. You want to make sure your lens is clean inside, everything's cleaned up, all your silicone. Once everything is cleaned up, you just want to come in with it. Make sure you're coming in straight. And as you're coming in straight, then just press it in by hand. These clips will latch and clip. So we've got it there. With those latches clipping, that's not going to be enough. So that's where clamps come in. These Irwin quick grips work perfectly. They're adjustable. This is what you're going to want. We're using 3 of them. So I'm going to go ahead and get this clamp down. I'll just put a little bit of pressure on that one. We will even the pressure out on them once we start getting all of them on. And then just basically go around making sure that it's all clamped. The silicone is squeezing out. Make sure that there's not a weird spot anywhere. It is holding it very tight, very secure. I have a spot here up at the edge. It's not holding it in completely tight. Everywhere else is looking really good. So I'm just going to readjust some clamps so I can get a little bit more pressure up here. So now that we've got it all clamped, I'll bring you in. This is what it looks like here. That's the placement of the clamps that I have. You can do 4, you can do more than you need, but you just want to make sure all the way around the edge that it is tight and it has squeezed that silicone out, as you can see. Same in here for your air intake. So just go around your edges, checking to make sure that it is clamped down. And then the next thing that I like to do, as you can see, I took the one glove off because I had some silicone on it. But what I like to do is I like to get another glove on. With the silicone that's squeezed out, I like to just kind of smooth it out. Just kind of get everywhere with some silicone. There's not as much squeezed out here, so I'll add a little in here. And I'll go around the whole light, just smoothing out the silicone that is squeezed out and making sure we got a nice seal all the way around. Yes, it is sealed because it's glued inside. I just like to make sure that it is nice on the outside as well. Probably a little bit of OCD kicking in, but that's alright. I like to make sure that it's done good. I'll flip it up and then I will silicone the wires on the bottom. I'm going to cut it here. I'll bring you back in when I have the wire silicone and I have it smoothed around the edge, and I'll show you what that looks like. So here's what it's going to look like if you have halos or demon eyes. You just want to make sure you get the silicone all over in the wires, in between the wires, sealed up really good. This is the edge that I've just gone over and have just smoothed out. So that's what it looks like on the bottom side. I'll come around. So that's the whole bottom side of it. So let me get this flipped over and show you the top side. So I've got it flipped over. You can see the clamps. Same thing, just went around it, smoothed the silicone out in between the lens and the housing, all the way around. Just made sure that I had a nice bead. Same thing in here. I just went in there with my finger, smoothed that all out. So that light is all clamped together. That's what it's going to look like for taking it apart, getting it clamped together and glued together. That is the silicone that you're going to want to use. It starts tacking up. It's like a 10-minute work time. It's a nice work time. You don't have to work too fast. It does cure in a decent amount of time. I let it sit like this for 24 hours. I just want to just make sure that it is glued, it is stuck, it is sealed, because I can't stress it enough. You do not want to get moisture in your headlights. But that is how we glue it together. So hopefully that's a little bit helpful for anyone looking to do this themselves. All right, so that headlight's just sitting behind me. It's clamped. I'm gonna let it dry. It says 8 hours if you're like 65 degrees and 50% humidity. It's like 8 hours for the setup time. It's like 10 minutes working time. It's just a really good silicone. I let it sit for 24. I just want to make sure 100% I know it's dry, it's good to go. So I just let it sit for 24 hours. I would recommend sitting it for 24 hours. But that is how you glue it and clamp it. One thing I do want to say is if your headlight has not been opened from the factory, it's going to be really hard to open it up. The plastic pry tool will probably work. It might not, so you might have to use some kind of a metal pry tool. You don't want to use... You want to be real easy when you're prying because it is plastic. So if you're using a metal pry tool and you're prying with a screwdriver or whatever on that plastic housing, it is going to dent it. It is going to damage it. You don't want to put a whole lot of pressure while you're prying that. You don't want to risk cracking the housing or cracking the lens. It can be a little bit challenging. Where that air intake is, that center ring, it might be best to do like some of the companies say and take a Dremel in there and cut that out. Just make sure you get that siliconed up really well. Personally, I would just kind of mess with it, try to get it apart before I ever would cut it. Just because once you cut it, that material is still down in there. You're gonna glue it back together. If you don't cut it, it's going to fit back in there, and it is going to be able to be a little bit easier to seal up personally. So it's going to take some heat, it's going to take some time, it's going to take some patience opening that up if it hasn't been opened up from the factory. Mine have already been opened up from the factory, so they were a little bit easier to do, but that is the techniques and the style that you're going to want to do for opening it up, is just having a heat gun, a pry tool, and just working it slow, working sections, keeping some heat in it. You want it to be really pretty dang hot to the touch. You don't want to be melting anything, so that is going to be something you're going to have to kind of get the feel for. You can hear that headlight housing starting to open up. But that's just kind of the headlight housing. Getting inside there, if you want demonizer halos where you can bring the wires out to the bottom of the housing, where you can mount the demon eye, the tools that you're needed in there for the projector housing, and then also just cleaning up the whole housing, getting it as clean as possible, and then using the silicone, gluing it up and clamping it like I've showed in this video. I won't keep going on. This video is probably already really long. I'm sorry if it's really long. If you've watched it all and you've got to this point, thank you so much for supporting the channel. I really appreciate it. If you like this video, be sure to hit that thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you want to see more. Hopefully this video was helpful and informative if this is something you're looking to do or just kind of curious about if you want to do it yourself. Throw down in the comments below if this video was helpful or informative, if you liked it and enjoyed it. And like I said, I appreciate all your guys' support. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you all in the next one. And until then, take care.